Hi, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and today I am going to be making white bean chili from my cookbook, Planti-Reflux, which can be found on Amazon. This is what it looks like, Planti-Reflux by Pam Fox. If you haven't already, you can join the book and common for reflux while eating these plant-based recipes in order to reduce, minimize, or eliminate reflux so that the tissues get a chance to heal. And so today I'm going to be making chili, which you might be wondering, how on earth can a person with reflux eat chili? This is a white bean chili. I'll show you a picture. And it eliminates tomatoes, and it eliminates, of course, meat, because these are plant-based recipes. It eliminates garlic and onions and chili powder. It's a white bean chili, and it's adapted from a chili recipe that my husband actually used to make that was a white bean chili that had chicken in it and a lot of spices, spicy chilies, and then a dollop of cream on top. And it was one of my favorites. But it's an adaptation of that. And so I would say if you're new to the group, try the recipe. If you're in the maintenance phase, which is where you start to reintroduce certain foods to see if maybe now you can tolerate that one thing at a time. And so I'm going to be making the actual recipe from the cook today. And I apologize. I can see that I got a poor connection, but so far so good. We're still connected. So I apologize for the poor connection. Hopefully you can see and hear me fairly decently. But what I'm going to be doing today is following this recipe. I'm going to be making it in my Instant Pot. And you don't have to have an Instant Pot to make this recipe. But I'm going to be making it in the Instant Pot. And I'm going to be talking about ways that you can adapt this recipe if you're in the maintenance phase to kind of zing it up a little bit, still being somewhat safe. I don't know, it just depends on the person. If you really know that you really just can't tolerate certain foods, then you don't want to be adding those back in. Unless you're really wanting to experiment, then you can add in, a little of this or a little bit of that to these recipes to see, if you've healed enough to be able to tolerate some of these things. And today I'm also going to be answering an email and talking about hiatal hernias again. Which I know I've talked about on here before. I really like to bring it up from time because that's kind of my specialty. That's kind of what got me started in all of this, with having a hiatal hernia and figuring out a way to reverse my own hiatal hernia naturally through diet and specific hiatal hernia sweet baby bell peppers. And if you follow me, you know that I use these in a lot of my recipes. I just buy these bags of the sweet mini peppers and I keep them in my freezer, which is great because then whenever you need a few, you just use what you need. You don't have to, I don't know, sometimes when you buy a big pepper, sometimes you use half of it. You think, well, I'll use the other half in a salad or something, and then you forget about it. So this is nice. You just use what you need. So this calls for, it calls for one sweet orange or red bell pepper, or I just use like 6 little ones. So that would be kind of the equivalent. And you got my Instant Pot going here, and I've got it on the saute function. So I don't know if you saw what I did there. I just dropped those in there. But this recipe, once you take out, some, like this recipe originally calls for chili and lime, which are 2 of the things that we eliminate for the Planti-Reflux challenge, because they can be common triggers. And just drop them right in. But yeah, it's better with the chilies and the lime, of course. So, but what gives this dish its flavor is the cilantro. There's cumin in there. There's no chili powder. There's nothing spicy. So it's not a spicy chili. But of course, when you're doing a plant-based or a anti-reflux challenge, you're eliminating, the spicy things, because that's one of the common triggers for reflux. So that I just put in was 2 cans of these. These are great northern beans. You could use any white bean that you have handy. And again, I just dropped them right into the Instant Pot. And then this also calls for a 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro. I already have some cilantro here, rinsed. And I'm going to do quite a bit. I really like this. Quite a little bit of this for garnish, and just that fresh little pop of cilantro on top. Now, if you don't like cilantro, you could replace this with flat leaf parsley or any kind of parsley. And if you don't like that, you can eliminate it altogether. Now, this recipe also calls for a can or a cup of corn, and of course, that's optional. I'm not going to be putting that in today. I have corn, but I just personally prefer this chili without corn. When I make like a red chili, I do like to add corn in there, but in this one I don't. But so that's optional. I'm not going to be adding that. So we'll put most of that in there. And it calls for 2 tablespoons of Bragg's nutritional yeast. This also gives it a lot of flavor. I don't know if you noticed, but I did 2 heaping tablespoons just because I happen to really like this stuff. 1 teaspoon of cumin. So just regular cumin, put a teaspoon of that. And then this, and what you do is you cook this and then you add in that hummus and it really kind of just thickens it up. And then it's done, and it's that easy. Now it does call for 4 cups of vegetable broth, and I have mine here ready to go, so I'm going to put that in. And I'm just going to give this, so you might be wondering, is this like a brothy chili? Is it like a bean brothy soup? Well, you cook this, I'm just going to cook this and heat it through for a few minutes on the pressure cook. And so that'll be done in a couple of minutes, and we're going to chat. But in that hummus, I'll show you the thick kind of chili consistency. So all of this goes in. See that? And that's what gives it a lot of flavor and the thick chili consistency. And this is really creamy because it has tahini in it. And a little bit of smoked paprika. A lot of flavor. Okay. So we're going to let that cook. And we're going to talk for just a moment. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. So before we move on to the email and talk about hiatal hernias, just really quick, what I was talking about this recipe being adapted from another recipe, it would normally call for these diced green chilies, which these are mild, so they're not hot. The mildest, down here at the bottom. And then the juice of 2 limes, and you could even add a little bit of lime. And that adds a lot of flavor as well. So if you're in the maintenance phase, a small can of these chilies instead of the big can, and just maybe the juice of 1 lime, and see how that goes. And normally, chili has things like, chili powder and that kind of thing. You could experiment with those things as well, too. It really just person and how. See. There it is. Okay, so this email is regarding hiatal hernia, and it comes from Katya. And she says, "Hi, thank you. I've had a lot of other issues, but I actually was inspired by you, a therapist who's been helping me break up adhesions and pull it down." So Katya is referring, your stomach is on the left side. Let's see here, we're streaming live. So this is my left side. Your stomach is on the left side, and it pushes up through a hole in your diaphragm known as the hiatus, and that is what is known as a hiatal hernia. Stomach pushes through that hole, and now it's either stuck in that hole or it's sliding in and out of that hole. Katya actually found a massage therapist. So a lot of people talk about chiropractic to readjust or to unherniate their hernia, and some people find benefit and release and relief from that. Others don't, and I believe that the reason some do and some don't is because everyone's hernia is different, and she's going to talk a little bit about scar tissue and adhesions. If you've had your hernia for a very long time, what happens if this is your diaphragm and your stomach is like this and it's herniated up into your diaphragm like that for a long time, let's say you've had a hernia for many years, it starts to develop adhesions or scar tissue or whatever you want to call it. They're attachments that kind of hold it in that place. And now it's just kind of living there in your diaphragm, whether it's like this or really bad, like up high, wherever it's situated. And so with chiropractic, some chiropractors know how to manipulate and move that stomach down. But Katya went to a massage therapist, and it's a bit harder. Sometimes it can be hard to find a chiropractor who's willing to do this or who knows how to do this. And finding a massage therapist can be even harder, just depending on where you live. But she's had some success in finding a massage therapist that was able to massage the stomach down. And that's essentially what I teach. It's essentially what I learned and taught myself and mastered down and detach. Then strengthen the diaphragm, tighten the hiatus so it couldn't reherniate, and overcome all of the symptoms that a hiatal hernia creates. Let's go on with her email. She says, for the first time in all the years I have been trying to get down, I felt it go down. So what she's talking about is for people who have a hiatal hernia, the hiatal hernia creates a variety of symptoms, and they're different for everybody. But for some people, if they're experiencing things like ongoing nausea, ongoing indigestion, ongoing general discomfort at the herniated site and radiating beyond, experience this instant relief and an instant cessation of relief from certain symptoms, but not others. And to that, I would say, people with LPR, which is where the reflux, is coming up into the throat, those symptoms do not get relief instantly once the stomach unherniates, because now we're talking about a lot of damage and injury to the esophagus that takes time to heal, right? You're not just going to get relief from that instantly. So yeah, everybody's going to be different, but she said as well, when I finally and fully and effectively unherniated my stomach, got it out of that diet, I literally felt and heard it, and I was like, I was like, oh, I was really uncomfortable up until the moment. I was really struggling. I was having anxiety. I was having pain. Amazing. And so this is what people are talking about when they have that experience of their stomach going down. She goes on to say that I see her 1 week or so and work on it with your stuff at home. And she's talking about the exercises that I teach. So these are if you can find somebody and go and do it, I think that's wonderful. Most people, though, however, they're not going to be able to find someone in their area that specializes in that or knows how to do it or is willing to do it. And usually you're going to have to keep going. So, there's an expense for that. Usually, massage therapists charge, anywhere about $100 an hour or something like that. So what the baby's breath and also strengthening the diaphragm so you can tighten that hiatus. So I teach you how to do it yourself so that you can do it every day on your own. That's cooking. Okay, so she goes on to talk about some other issues that she has. She talks about suspecting that she has parasites. She has severe bloating. And she goes on, thank you so much for your great info. It has really helped me to both have hope and understanding that I can do this myself. So again, that's what I teach. I give you the tools and the instruction and the education to help you better understand. And I don't just teach the exercises in my course. I teach you why you have a hiatal hernia, or to help you kind of figure out why. Because if you know what caused it, what caused it may be things that are still ongoing today and are supporting it, right? So if you're having to bear down every single day or every single time you pass a bowel movement, that's supporting your hiatal hernia. If you have bloating every time you eat, that's supporting your hiatal hernia. If you consistently slouch, or you work at a desk, or you drive in a car a lot, that's supporting your hiatal hernia. If you lift heavy things or have small children and you're picking them up all the time, that's supporting your hiatal hernia. If you're an exercise fanatic and you lift heavy weights and do a lot of ab work, that could also be support contraction for hiatal hernia. So all of these different things, you can identify, well, that's me and that's me and that's me. Am I wearing tight clothing every day? Do I wear those tummy slenderizers or a tight belt? And you can go, okay, I need to start making some changes so I'm not always supporting my hiatal hernia, and I can master these exercises that actually move the stomach down, right? And I can also do diaphragm exercises that strengthen the diaphragm and get it nice and strong and healthy, so I don't have a higher chance of that re-herniation occurring, which anyone with a hiatal hernia is at higher risk of re-herniating if they've had a hiatal hernia before. A lot of people email me and message me, that they had success with my course, but now their symptoms are back and they've had a flare-up and that kind of a thing. And 100% of the time they'll admit, I stopped doing the exercises. Now, do you have to do the exercises for the rest of your life? I don't know, maybe. I don't do them every day. I do them occasionally just out of habit. But I have a lot of habits that support downward movement of the stomach, like doing a little bit of daily breath work or stretching my abs when I work out so that they're not always pulled in. Instead, they're expanded and flexible. So again, everyone's going to be different. Some people, they do a few exercises, they unherniate their stomach, they're good to go. So this is going to be different for everybody. That's done. I'm releasing the pressure in my Instant Pot. Let's see. So let's finish up this email. She says that her massage therapist has really. She said, but I would have not sought her out if I didn't know from you about breaking up adhesions and that thing. So I still have a lot of my symptoms, she says, but I think the hernia is improving and I can manipulate it a little more myself. What's called a sliding hiatal hernia, which means your diaphragm, it moves up and down every time you take a breath. And it takes that stomach with it and it can slide around in there. And it can put additional, as it does that, it can put pressure on the vagus nerve. It can put pressure on your heart and lungs. It can kind of put a lot of pressure on things that don't like to have consistent pressure on them. And so it's really important to consistently do the exercise, get that neck down, and learn how to master the two down, right? So again, so that you can eliminate the symptoms that the hernia creates. So let's go ahead and add, I'll show you the chili. Well, I can't yet because it's still, hang on just a second. I'm just, it will not open until pressure has been released. So it's naturally releasing pressure because I opened up that valve. But you can push down on this little button to release it quicker. So now we can just show this to you really quick. And it is, it's like a brothy bean soup, really is all it is. See how brothy it is? So now, actually it smells wonderful. I'm going to add this hummus to it. That's what's gonna, and by the way, I entered this chili in a chili cook-off this year for Super Bowl. Of course, that was before COVID and all of that. I was at a Super Bowl with a chili contest. And it didn't win the chili contest, but it got a lot of pie, and it all got eaten. And I thought it was really good. Now, another thing you can do if you really want to thicken this up is you can take your immersion blender and blend it up a little bit more so that it's even thicker. And so I will admit this isn't a super thick chili, but it's really, really good. I'm just getting all of that hummus in there. Oops, I missed the big blob here. And then I just give it a little stir. Unless you wanted to, immersion blending of this to make it even thicker. All right, I'm gonna put this in a bowl and give it a taste and show you guys. I'm just mixing all that hummus in. Yikes. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And you could do too, you could keep this more like a brothy soup and you could put a dollop of that hummus kind of on top of it. And I'm gonna add, just because I love cilantro, I'm gonna add a little bit of fresh cilantro, and that's the chili. And this recipe, it's enough for me to have a couple of bowls of chili for dinner, and maybe a couple of bowls for lunch, and a couple of bowls the next day for dinner, and then it'll be gone. You could fill that whole chili pot up if you wanted to. You just want to, double the recipe, and of course, add more beans. I don't know if you can see. Does that look good? really good. The nice thing too about adding that cold hummus in is it's ready to eat. It cools it off a little bit, so it's not burning hot. Very, very good. Mm. All right. I would say that's a little on the salty side, and that's because that liquid, that Bragg's liquid aminos that I put in there, what's it called for? Did I put too much in, or is it just seems awfully salty? It calls for, you know, you could add that in sparingly at the end and just kind of customize it for whatever you need to do. But this is a wonderful chili. It's different. It's a different kind of a flavor. I can taste that smoked paprika in the hummus. And the hummus recipe is in the cookbook, along with the vegetable broth recipe. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week.